Hi, friends. Welcome back to Sorta Awesome. I'm your host, Meg Teets, and it is time once again to dust off the old library card, pack up your tote with your favorite drinks and snacks and your sunscreen, and head out into the heat with a bag full of reading goodness because we are going to talk summer reading today. I am joined by our books and reading specialist, Katie Proctor. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Meg. Happy summer.
Happy summer. It is, as you are listening, it's Memorial Day weekend, so it's the official kickoff of summer. As Katie and I are recording, we're not quite there yet, but it is definitely heating up like it's summer where we are, right?
Yes, it's quite warm and quite sunny.
Okay, Katie, scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about summer reading season? Like in the scope of all of the reading that you do, scale of 1 to
Is
10.
12 an option? Because super excited. I've already gone through my shelves and pulled out the things that I want and put them on the special shelf. This is what I'm doing this summer.
Good.
That will probably
Look at
change a
you.
lot, but
You have a special summer shelf. This is a new reading goal for all of us.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. Well, Katie and I, for a while, have really looked forward to putting together just like a little summer reading overview. We are not here to do your in-depth comprehensive. No, there are plenty of people doing that. We can point you to some of those and maybe leave links in the show notes for some that we would love for you to check out. But we're just like, hey, these have been some good reads for us. These are some books that people are buzzing about. If you're ready to get your summer reading list going, we've got you all hooked up. We've done the research for you. We've got some really awesome titles to share. So that's what Katie and I are going to be doing today on Sorta Awesome. Welcome back, Awesomes, to the show that loves to support you in becoming smart, strong, and social. If you have been looking for amazing women to connect with and a community that will support you no matter what age or stage of life you're in, I'm so thrilled to tell you that you've come to the right place because Sorta Awesome is not just a podcast, it's also your community on the go. We would love to have you connect with us outside of your podcast app in one of our social media communities. I'm going to point you guys over to the Sorta Awesome Hangout. Katie, we often talk about this, that there's 2 times of the year when the hangout gets real busy with people coming in, especially for just like some problem solving, some like family life support. And those 2 times of the year are the holidays and summer break. And so if you've never been a part of the hangout before, or maybe you like took a break from Facebook, maybe an extended break from Facebook. Maybe you haven't been there in a while. Come on back to the Hangout because summer is a time when we get in there, we support each other with travel recommendations, with like, help me sort through this family dynamic that I don't know what to do. People will come in and be like, okay, we're hosting the whole family in a cabin for a week. We need this many meals. Ready, set, go. Tell me what I'm cooking. Like, all kinds of things are covered in the Hangout. So I just want to say, if you are not a part of the Hangout, this is a great time of the year to come and join us. Katie, you're in there. You know,
Yes,
it's
and
all
my
about,
favorite things for the summer are what do I do with my kids and how do I organize them and
yes,
how do I have a functional summer without losing my mind at home. So I love those
yes.
conversations too.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. So please come and join us over there. We would love to have you. You can just search Sorta Awesome Hangout. And of course, that link is always in the show notes for you guys. Okay. So Katie and I have so much books and reading goodness for you guys. You know, we always do. I always look at our list. Katie sends me a little preview of what she's planning on talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can kind of imagine like our timing, try to suss it out. And every single time we just end up having so many more words than I thought about books.
I feel like that's okay.
I think it's great. And I don't think we've had one complaint yet about how long our books and reading episodes tend to be. So before we get to all of that, let's go ahead, Katie, and start this show the way we always do with our Awesomes of the Week. Awesome of the Week is the moment in the show where we stop and talk about whatever it is that is making life just a little bit more awesome right now, whether it is a book or a TV show, music, movie, podcast, product, recipes, apps, whatever's bringing the gold sparkle to your days right now. Katie, what do you have for us this week?
Okay, so I'm going to sneak in a book here, which I
Oh.
know we're going to spend the rest of the time on books, but I realized after I made my list that I didn't include any middle grade books, and that's because over this
Ooh.
summer, I don't want to read middle grade. Like I'm doing that all year,
Yes.
so I usually don't read a ton. But this one is coming out in just a few weeks. And so there's kind of two
Okay.
things I want to talk about. Number one is Libro FM. I don't know if we've talked about this on here, but Libro FM is like an Audible platform, but for independent bookstores. So you go on there,
Ooh.
you can click like your independent bookstore, and then a portion of your purchase goes to them. So it's like a way to support your independent bookstore without
Whoa.
using Amazon if that's your thing. So I love that.
Okay.
The cool thing about
Yeah.
Libro is that you can sign up to be an educator or a librarian if that's your job, or an influencer if you can prove that
What?
you have certain number
Whoa.
of followers and you talk about books a lot, and they will send you every month free advanced listening copies.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
just got signed up as a teacher after money badgerings from friends, but I got the new book from Gary D. Schmidt, which I don't know if you've heard me talk about him before. Wednesday Wars and Okay for Now are like two of my favorite middle grade books. And so when
Yes.
I opened my Libro app on May 1st and I saw that this book was in there, I literally squealed out loud, and my husband was like, "What is the actual matter with you?" And I was like, "Listen, I just got this book," because I had pre-ordered it because I heard about it like a long time ago. So I listened right away, and I have many things to say about it. So this
Okay.
book is called The Labors of Hercules Beale by Gary D.
Okay.
Schmidt. And
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of adjacent to Wednesday Wars and Okay for Now, but it's not historical fiction. So this is present time. It tells the story of Hercules. He's like a seventh grader, and his brother's name is Achilles. You can kind of see a theme here, but their parents
Mm-hmm.
have recently passed away in like a sudden car accident. So Achilles is an
Oh.
adult brother, and he has had to
Mm-hmm.
come home to take care of Hercules. And they live on their family's like nursery, and they in Cape Cod, and so they're working with plants and all these things. And so Hercules actually ends up going to a new school, and he has this new homeroom teacher named Lieutenant Colonel Hupfer, and he is a hard, like strict man, but like really tender too. And he gives
Mm.
Hercules this assignment. He gives everybody a Greek mythology assignment, and it's
Love it.
personalized for them. So his assignment
Mm-hmm.
is to go through the 12 labors of Hercules and then write
Perfect.
about them. So he,
Yes.
and so in the story, you get to hear what the 12 labors of Hercules are, and then how each one kind of mirrors something that our Hercules has to deal with in
Oh,
life.
I love
And
it.
it is like, I mean, first of all, this is catnip because it's Greek
I
mythology
know. I
adjacent.
was
I'm
like,
like, hello.
no wonder you like squealed with delight. I'm like, did he write this book for Katie
He
Proctor
did. He did.
specifically? This is
I'm
all of the
convinced.
things that you love.
I'm convinced that he did. And so I just wanted, this book is just lovely. And the way he writes is so, he makes you laugh in one second and literally sob in the next one. I think I cried like multiple times. The way that he tackles grief from like a seventh grader's perspective,
Mm.
and how he
Yeah.
struggles with it, but then how he triumphs over it sometimes, and how it never really gets resolved because we don't resolve our grief, but it,
Yes.
can lessen. And I just loved it so much. It comes out on May 23rd, and
need it.
I just, yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So that's my
You
awesome of the week.
one of many points of connection for you and I is we both love Greek myth, and we both love a Greek myth, either like not sometimes a retelling, but sometimes just like it inspired by Greek myth. I love this. It sounds amazing. Thank you for
so
bringing
good.
it to our attention. I'm so glad that you're a teacher influencer. Oh, speaking of influencer, I was going to say, you guys, if you don't already follow Katie on Instagram, she does like Middle Grade Monday. She is a fantastic source because this is your day job also, teaching middle grade students, middle grade reading. You're a middle grade author. Like she is your go-to, if you don't mind my saying, Katie, for all things middle grade. So it's Katie Proctor Writes and Reads. Okay. I always have to double check and make sure is it Writes and Reads or Reads and Writes? Writes and Reads on Instagram. Of course, we'll have a show note link for you to go do that. But that sounds fantastic. I love it.
So good.
Okay. My awesome of the week is also reading adjacent because I was kind of like thinking of the same thing that you were thinking. You were like, oh, we don't have any middle grade on our list. I was thinking we don't have any children's books, but I do have a fantastic resource. If you do spend summer times reading to your kids, reading with your kids, if you do your libraries, summer reading program, which we're getting the flyers sent home now from Oklahoma City libraries about summer reading. I can't believe I haven't talked about this newsletter before, but I'm doing it now because the timing is perfect. So this is a newsletter on Substack from a woman named Sarah Miller, and the name of the newsletter is called "Can We Read?" And she is um, a woman she's like a mom
Mm-hmm.
who loves and is obsessed with, you could even say, children's literature. And so when her kids are like 8 and 6 now, I think, but when her little girl was 3, she would just ask her mom all day long, "Can we read? Can we read?" Which is like
Oh.
how my girls were. That's how Nico is now. Reading is
Mm-hmm.
his favorite thing
Oh, I
to
love
do.
it.
And so Sarah has created this whole newsletter, and there are tons of archives that you can go back to. But it's all focused on children's literature. It comes out twice a week, Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. And she has a couple of different things going on in here. So she will have her newsletter that she writes, like her portion of it, where she'll sometimes she has a theme, sometimes there's no theme. She does a great job of highlighting books with just a few paragraphs. It's like just enough to kind of give you the sense of what the book is about, who it would be great for, but you don't get bogged down like in lengthy
Mm-hmm.
reviews. She highlights if like the illustrations are particularly good. She does a fantastic job of creating and curating a diverse selection of books. And then she'll also have guest writers come in who specialize in one thing. So, like, I think it was back in April. I'm looking at the archives right now. Yeah, in April, she featured somebody who came in and did children's audiobook recommendations for all ages. It was a guest post from Katie Wycliffe.
That's
So
awesome.
so she
What a
brings
great
in other
resource.
people. Yes. And she's just brilliant. She does all of this. Like her Substack is just kind of her passion project. You can subscribe and get more from her, but she just loves children's literature
Mm.
so much, and just like out of the passion of her heart, just provides this for parents, for caregivers, for teachers. Oh my gosh, I'm getting a little teary just talking about it. You and I both just love books. And she really is like about creating a culture of literacy in the home, which I know is something that you and I both feel strongly
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the newsletter is called Can We Read? I will put a link in the show notes if you want to go check it out. You can go to the archives page and read a few editions to see if it's for you. But truly, if you are headed to the library this summer and you're like, okay, where do we even start? Just Sarah will hook you up with a whole list of titles where you can get started on that for your summer reading with your kids.
Yeah. So is it picture books and like middle grade? Does it
I
go up to
think
YA
sometimes
or just middle
it's
grade?
no, it's I would
Okay.
say middle grade is probably the top of where
Okay.
it's really more babies, board books,
Gotcha.
toddler, and like true children's literature.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yes. Okay. Katie and I have so much bookish goodness to get into. We are going to get to some summer picks just for you, curated just for you, awesomes, when we come right back. Okay, we are back. And once again, I am really tickled to be joined today by Katie Proctor. I mean, Katie, any day that I get to sit down on microphone and see your beautiful face is a great day for me. I know.
Well, same for me because this is my favorite thing to do. So,
Oh, fun. Okay, well, let's get right into the list. In fact, you put together such a great list, and you're like, you know what? Let's start with a sort of more like highbrow, maybe more literary fiction, but it's not just like any old literary fiction that you could pull off the shelf. I mean, you like really thought about what's good literary fiction that would be great for picking up this summer. What did you pick for us in that category?
so I have two for this one, and I named the category literary books that make you feel things because they will make you feel things. But
Good.
you know, some people need to feel things over the summer too. So the first
Yes.
one I picked is called Go as a River by Shelley Reed.
Okay.
This is a debut. I don't even understand how it's a debut because the writing is so good. The sense of place, you will just feel like you are there. And it's
Mm.
set in Colorado, so it's pretty close to me. And
Hmm.
I've heard, names, been through some of the towns that she talks about. And so it was really personally kind of relevant to me. But this book takes place in the 1940s. And our main character's name is Victoria Nash, and her family runs a peach orchard, which is why it's kind of summery, right? Because when I think of summer,
Yes.
I think of peaches and I think of
1000%.
all
Yeah.
the things you can do with peaches. But her mom and I think another family member had passed away recently. So she's left on this farm with her dad, her brother who has a lot of issues, and then an uncle who was injured in a war, but he's not really related to them. I don't really know how they got stuck with him. He just is there and he's very cranky and horrible. So
Mm.
she is
Okay.
stuck in this house full of men. She does all the cooking, she does all the cleaning, she does all the things. And she's young, she's like 17. And
Mm.
so she goes into town one day and she meets a boy named Will, and he is a native kind of drifter kid who is not welcome at all in their tiny Colorado town, as you can imagine, in the 1940s. She falls in love with him. Their relationship kind of snowballs all of these things that are happening. In the background of this, the town that she lives in is starting, the government is trying to dam the river to turn the area into like a reservoir, like a lake. And so
Yes.
in that, they are buying up land, they're taking care, they're, parceling out everything and getting people out of there because really the town is going to just be destroyed. And this is based on a true story of the town of this town in Colorado. So we get to see her.
Yeah.
It's kind of a coming of age story, but we see her grow up into this and what she has to make decisions that are tough in all kinds of areas. I don't want to say too much without spoiling it, but she has to make a lot of decisions about the family orchard and what she does with that, and then also things in her personal life. And so there are some hard things in this book, but really it's so redemptive and so beautiful. And like the ending was one of those that like just comes full circle and made me hug it at the end. So that one is called
Oh,
Go as a River by Shelley Reed, and I loved it. So,
if you tell me it's a hug it at the end book,
mm-hmm.
I will fully be on board with that. I have not read this, but I've heard a lot of buzz around it. It's really, I think it's really resonating for people.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a debut, though. That's
Mm-hmm.
really remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and I think too the thing about literary fiction that maybe some of us readers might kind of avoid it for is because you don't always get that redemptive quality.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes literary fiction is kind of like awful people doing awful things, and then that's the book.
Forever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. No, this one I would say definitely has a swing up, and those are my favorite kinds. So if I'm
Me
recommending a
too.
literary fiction book to you, it's usually because there's some kind of swing up at the end.
Love to hear that. Okay, and you have another one picked for us. Then speaking of buzz,
Okay,
yes.
so this one is, you've seen it everywhere. It just won the Pulitzer Prize. It's called Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And I know I have been a lifelong fan of Barbara Kingsolver, as many of us have. This book, I want to recommend it, but like with a lot of caveats. So I
Okay,
want to go
let's
through
hear it.
that a little bit.
Hmm.
I brought it because of the buzz. It's because it won the Pulitzer Prize. This is a big book. She absolutely deserves this prize for the writing. Her writing is phenomenal. I don't even like, I can't even fathom how good of a writer she is. She just, everything she writes is so good. This book, however, is not a book for everyone. It is really hard. So I think she sort of modeled it after David Copperfield, which I have not read. I'll be honest. That was one that I skipped in my
Yeah.
college years. But it follows a story of a boy named Demon Copperhead, excuse me. We meet him when he's a child. He's in and out of foster care. They live in Appalachia somewhere. And so you can imagine some of the foster care placements are fine-ish and some of them are horrible. And he's got this one constant friend, but he was being raised by his grandparents and they can't take him in even though they want to. And so there's a revolving door of like social workers and foster families and foster siblings and all of these things. Plus, he is deep in the area where there's a huge opioid crisis in the United States.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
he goes through a lot of that. I will say probably 95% of this book is hard.
Oh
There is
gosh,
like,
yeah.
I want to say that there's like the tiniest bit of like a swing up at the end where you can
Yeah.
leave the book feeling a little bit hopeful, but it takes a long time to get there. There is a lot of drug abuse, there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of mental health, there's a lot of all the trigger things that you can think of.
Mm.
But it is a beautiful book and the writing is beautiful. So if you are a person who's like, I can handle sad, I can handle this while I'm sitting on the beach or wherever, it's a really worthwhile read, but it is tough. So I wanted to say those things about it.
Thank you for all of the caveats. This is not a book for me.
I don't think so. In fact, I told my mom that she should probably stop reading it because I gave it to her. She loves Barbara Kingsolver, but she was like, I'm only
Yeah.
like, 40 pages in. I was like, Mom, stop reading this book. Put it away. And she
Yeah.
listened because I don't think she would have made it. So,
This would be difficult for me. I'm going
Mhm.
to avoid it, but I'm so glad you brought it because with it winning the Pulitzer, with it just being like so talked about, if you are a person who, like you said, can handle the weightier topics and to read about them with such mastery that Barbara Kingsolver brings to the writing, I
Mhm.
think it's an important book to at least have on
Yeah.
your radar, and it will probably be talked about in literary circles for a while. So
Yes,
thank you for giving
absolutely.
us the inside scoop on that one for sure. Okay, so we got the weighty reads out
Mhm.
of the way. What else do you have for us? Maybe we can lighten the tone a little bit.
So my next category was nonfiction on the lighter side. So these are books that you can read on the beach. These are books that you can take in small chunks. They're not going to require a ton of brain space, but they are going to add so much to your, I think, just sense of life. And so I picked these two because I love them. I just finished the first one last night and I
Okay.
knew I had to put on this list. It is called Enchantment by Catherine May. And this one, she wrote Wintering. I don't know if we talked about Wintering a
I
few.
don't know if we've talked about it directly. I can't remember, but
So
it's
that one was
definitely, yeah.
more, yeah, that one was more about resting, like taking the winter
Yes.
to rest and she talked about like animals hibernating and the aurora borealis and all kinds of things winter related. This one is different. She organizes it by the elements of the earth. So we have like an earth, we have a water, a fire, and an air section.
Oh,
And
I love
so
it.
I love how she organized it. And each one is, um, has like 4 little chapters about each element basically. And so she talks and she does talk a lot about the pandemic. I do want to say that in case there are some people who are just not ready to like
Okay.
handle the
Yes.
pandemic, but I swear there were pieces of this where I felt like she had been inside my brain. Like there was a part where she
Yes.
talks about getting to her nighttime skin routine and washing her face and being like, didn't I just do this like 5 seconds
Mm.
ago? And I feel that so hard sometimes. Like, okay, I'm doing this thing. I love my skincare routine, probably because of you, but it took like,
Yay.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, I feel like I just did this. Why am I here
Yes.
again? You know?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
she talks about anxiety. She talks about how we kind of lost parts of ourselves throughout the pandemic. It's not all pandemic
Yeah.
related, but she talks about how her writing habits changed. She talks about how her reading habits changed. All kinds of great things about this. And just like, and then the main point of the book is to just wonder and notice and be outside and
Yes.
take the things that we take for granted and just notice them and make them magical because they're
Yes.
there and we can see them.
Yes.
So this one, I don't know, I just loved it. I think it's what it kind of healed a lot about me and my feelings about being in a pandemic. So I really recommend this
Yes.
one.
I have heard such good things about this one. And I think that that whole concept of just like wonder and how we've lost it in
Hmm.
this modern era. And then for her to come in and like help us get back in touch with it, I'm all for that for
Yeah,
sure.
I
For
loved
sure.
it. I loved it. And then the second one I brought is The Life Council 10 Friends Every Woman Needs by Laura
Yes.
Tremaine. Not only is the cover of this one like made for summer, it's like pink and stripy and just fun. This book, I think it doesn't need an introduction because we've talked about it a lot, but it's so, so good. So I wanted to bring it so that we just reiterate that. If you haven't read this one yet, you need to. Um,
Yes. And Wednesday, well, you go ahead. Do you have other words on that?
I was just going to say, it's so fun to read with a friend too. I would suggest like grab a
Yes.
friend, to grab 2 copies of the book, read through it together. Katie Cobb and I did this one together, and we had so much fun like recounting our childhood friendships to each other, because we only met as adults, so we don't have like the full background of our childhood. So it was really fun to be like, hey, I want to tell you about this
Yes.
one time and this one friend, not just the fun things, but the hurtful ones too. And like, this happened in middle school, or this happened to me as a brand new teacher, or those. So we got to share those stories with each other. It made me appreciate all the different people in my life, and kind of,
Yes.
even putting them in categories, but not like as a way to label anybody, but which Laura doesn't say to do, but just to
Yeah.
appreciate, like, I have this person and they do this for me and I do this for them. And just being able to reflect on that was really great. So I loved it.
I do. I think this would be such a great summer read with a friend. And I hope that people don't read the title. I'm only mentioning this because I've seen it in comments on Laura's social media, people being like, wait, you're telling me I'm supposed to have 10 friends? I can't even actively like find one or two good friends right
Right.
now. And I just really want to reiterate, as Laura has often, that this is more about a celebration of friendship in different seasons of life over time. Like you were saying, like, I still think about, I haven't taught in 20 years, but I still think about how important those friendships were with other teachers that were on my
Mm-hmm.
hall when I was teaching. That those were not lasting lifelong friendships, but when I was in the thick of it, absolutely they were so
Right.
important. So it's more about like looking at friendship as a broad expanse of people who sometimes come in and out of our lives. Maybe there's, one who's there consistently, but it's not at all about being like, you don't have 10 friends right now on your life council. Well, you got some catching up to do. Like, no, that is not the thing with
Right.
that book.
Yeah, and I love that she, it's kind of like a memoir, but
Mhm.
also a guidebook. Because I love the examples that she showed, because they were like, they made me think of other things and other people in my life that were like, oh, they did, this kind of similar situation happened to me, or I had a similar person that was like this. And so I think it's a good one. I do think that she didn't want it to be prescriptive, like you have to do this and you have to do this, and if you don't have this person, then you're going to be in trouble forever. So I do agree with you that that is not the tone of this book. The tone of the book is
Yes.
to celebrate friendship and to, um, I don't know, reflect on it. And I loved it.
Yes. Oh, good. I'm so glad you liked it too. It's a really good book. Really,
It
really
is.
good. And then I think you had one that was more just, it was fiction that was just like, just for fun,
Oh
right?
yes, yes. I have a
Okay.
pure fun.
Pure fun.
Yes, pure fun.
Love it.
This one is called "The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise" by Colleen Oakley, and it is a blue cover. It's got 2 ladies driving off in a car, so you can kind of get into the
Yes.
Thelma and Louise headspace here.
Yes. That is the vibe. I love it.
Yes. So the setup is that Louise is an older woman. Her adult kids have decided that she needs a roommate, not necessarily like a nurse caretaker, but someone to drive her to her appointments, someone to drive her to her bridge games or bingo or whatever she does. And so they find this 20-something-year-old girl named Tanner, which I had a hard time with, because Tanner for me is more like a boy's name. So I had to get used
For
to
sure.
Tanner's a girl. But she has had an injury. And so she's recently lost her soccer scholarship at soccer. So she's kind of in this like, I don't want to do anything kind of phase. And Louise does not want to have a 20 something in her house that she feels like she has to parent anymore. She's like, I've been there and done that. I don't want to do this. So their relationship
Yes.
is a little rocky at first. But then there's like kind of a lot of intrigue in here. So Louise gets a mysterious phone call. Tanner sees an age progressed photo of someone who was involved in like a jewelry heist, and the FBI are looking for her. And in the middle of the night, Louise is like, we gotta go. Can you drive me across country to see this friend? And Tanner says, sure. And they get in this like mint green Jaguar and take off into the sunset, basically. And so
Yeah.
it's an adventure story, but really it's so much about their relationship and how they relate to each other, even though they have decades between them in age. It's fun. You do have to suspend a little bit of belief here. Like, have you read Finley Donovan is Killing It?
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
a little bit like that, like where you're like,
Okay.
here is, I mean, there are some ridiculous things that go on. There are not any dead bodies like in
Okay.
Finley,
Yes.
but there is so much fun here. And it's just like one of those feel good, kind of heartwarming things, but it keeps you reading because you want to find out. There's like intrigue all the way through. You want to find out the story.
Yeah.
So it was really, really fun.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And speaking of Finlay Donovan, if you guys haven't read that, it's been out for a few years and there's a follow-up book to it as
There's
well.
3.
There's 3 now.
Yeah,
Well, there
there's
you
a 3rd one.
go.
Yep.
Indulge yourself in the whole series this summer because those are super fun too, and definitely page turners. In fact, I would say if you're thinking like, oh, if I haven't been in the mood for reading in a while, I've been kind of stuck, those are great ones to pick up because you just get right into the action. But this one sounds like a definite read alike as well.
Yes, it was fun. I really liked it. I gave it to my mom and she's reading it now too. So it's
Oh, good.
fun.
Good. Okay. So we have covered some more serious ones. We've covered some more lighthearted ones, but you guys, we've got so much more great book talk. We've got your young adult selections. We've got some romance selections, and I'm going to tell you what's buzzing over on Book Talk. If you want to pick up a book and have your teen be like, how did you hear about that book? That I will hook you up with the Book Talk selections for the summer for sure. And we're going to get to all of those when we come right back. Okay, we are back and we are talking all things books and reading, especially with a mind towards getting you ready for the summer reading season, whether you are headed to your local public library, if you're going to indulge your wish list that you've been building at your favorite bookstore or on Amazon. We've got you all set for your summer reading. So, Katie, one thing that you and I both do love, we both love middle grade. We both love a young adult book. I've talked about young adult novels for years on Sorta Awesome. And I know we have a lot of awesomes who love that genre as well.
Yes.
So we've got a few picks. One is one that we have both read. This was a recent Awesome of the Week for me on my last episode of Midlife with Mindy and Meg, but I'm going to call it out again because it's a great summer read. And a lot of people, like when I talked about it, I thought, oh, this is like a little low key under the radar discovery. Discovery that I made. No, that's not right. It was on Book of the Month, and those are usually pretty buzzy books.
Yeah. That's okay. We're going to give it to you anyways. Meg,
thank you.
All of us.
Yes.
And she was the first one.
My discovery. Okay, so again, this is Divine Rivals, and it's by Rebecca Ross. And this is the first selection I've read from Rebecca Ross, though this is not her debut, I don't think. I think she's got a few others. And I'm trying to remember. Let me see if I can find my notes. Okay, so the thing about this is it's kind of like a magical realism. Does that feel right, genre-wise?
Yeah, I would say at first it feels like I really thought we were in World War II.
Yes.
And then they started talking about gods and goddesses, and I was like, oh, we are not in the actual world. Okay, so I would agree with that, even though I do think that their entire world is fantasy.
Yes. So I'm trying to build this setting for you guys. It is like World War II meets Greek myth in the sense that the whole structure of the universe for Divine Rivals is that there's a mythology system. There are gods and goddesses, and the mortals, the humans, believe that the gods have been tamed in a sense and have been put to sleep. But then it becomes apparent that 2 of the gods who are at odds with each other have awakened, and they've started a war, and they're bringing the humans into the war to be the soldiers, the people who are actually fighting the war for this god and goddess. And so in the midst of all of this, we meet our protagonist, our heroine, Iris Winnow. She's 18 years old. She's trying to kind of hold things together for her family. Her brother has gone off to war. Her brother, whom she adores and she's so close to, has gone off to war. Her mother has fallen into depression and alcoholism and is not doing well with her brother being gone. She's an aspiring journalist. She takes a job at a newspaper, and she's competing against a young man named Roman Kitt, who's very handsome and very aloof and also very talented. And so they have this rivalry going at work. One thing to know about Iris, and again, this is where the magical realism kind of comes in, is she has a magical typewriter that was given to
Yes.
her by her grandmother. And so she types up these letters, and she thinks that she's kind of just like pouring all of her thoughts and feelings and emotions to her brother, like in letters to her brother. And she puts them like in her closet. Is that right? I
It's
can't
like a
remember.
wardrobe. She like
Like
tucks
her
it under.
wardrobe.
Yeah.
Yes. And the letters disappear. And she thinks they're going to her brother. And then one day she discovers, no, they're not. They're going to someone else who's been reading. And so as the story unfolds, you have more of the budding friendship and relationship between her and Roman. You meet a whole cast of characters, all very much related to what's going on in the war. She ends up going to the war front to be a war correspondent.
Mm-hmm.
Roman follows her there. So you have this idea, divine rivals, in the sense that the big overarching thing that's happening is warfare and conflict between an actual god and goddess. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
on the epic level that you have this tension, this relationship between Iris and Roman, also as a driving part of the story. And this is the first in a series. And Katie, it ends on quite the cliffhanger, doesn't it?
That's what I was going to make sure we told people, like, be prepared that
Yes.
you're not going to quite get some closure at the end. She did this with her other book that I read, which was called A River Enchanted, which people really loved also last year. She did the same thing. Like, it was a whole, you were like in this romance, and then it was like, okay, there's a book too. So good thing to know.
Yes.
That one.
I guess we should know this is I would say this is new adult, because our characters they're 18. It's kind of like in that blurry place between young adult and new adult, I feel like.
Yeah, but it's pretty clean, I would say. I think I wouldn't have a problem handing it to a teenager, maybe.
Yeah, there's definitely like there's romance there. There's attraction. There's, that's part of it. But I wouldn't say it's exactly wholesome, but it's, yeah. For mature teens and older, I think it would be just fine. So I listened to this on audio via the Book of the Month app. Now,
okay,
Katie,
so I need to know about that, because I'm very picky about my audio apps and how, you can speed things up and all of that. So please tell us all about the Book of the Month audio app, because I've been intrigued but haven't tried it yet.
Okay. I will say, if you are new to audio, the Book of the Month app is perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's a perfectly fine way to listen to audio. It has the basic functions that you would want, like play and stop.
And pause, hopefully.
And pause. I can't remember. I guess I could open and look at it. I think it has a like 10-second forward, 10-second back. Let me open it up really fast. I will say, Katie, I have used Audible, which I know some people are sort of, we're on again, off again with Amazon and all of its companies, but I've used Audible for so many years. They have poured, whether or not you like Amazon as a company, they have poured so much money into Audible, into the whole experience of it. I have to say, the Audible app to me is the gold standard in terms of the functionality of it, the organization, most importantly, the speed up factor. When you speed up on Audible, you can speed it up quite a few notches and it still sounds normal, like normal speech. That has not been my experience so far with Book of the Month audio. I do think that, this is a brand new part of their app. This is a brand new part of their experience. So I'm hopeful that it will continue to get better as time goes on. But yeah, the functionality so far is it's pretty basic. So I think if you're not picky about the listening experience, if you are not one, I know there's some people that are like, that's how I read so much. I just listen and I put it on pretty quickly. And that's a really important part of the listening and reading experience. I don't think that would be a great app for you. But if you're like new to audio, or if you never speed up the audio, if you just want a straight audio player, it's like I said, it'll work just fine for you.
Good to know.
So, and as I mentioned on that episode with Mindy, I'm looking forward to burning through these freaking Book of the Month credits.
I have so many books. My daughter counted mine the other day, my unread ones, and it was offensive. So we're just gonna.
expensive. Yes. And a couple of people pointed out to me, and I think Mindy even mentioned this, using those credits as gifts. And that is a great
Yes.
idea, except I get all in my head about what books people would like, and I get stressed out about that. And you can only order up to 3 books per box.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have as many credits as I do, we're going to take a while. So I'm choosing to just be selfish, and I'm just like, look at all this audio I get to listen to this summer.
Do it. I mean, I think it was a great pivot for them. Hopefully they can,
Yes.
the audio can work for like audio snobs. I would call
Yes.
myself an audio snob at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I get it completely. So, okay. So you read Divine Rivals. What were
I
your
did.
thoughts? Okay.
I really liked it. I love the enemies to lovers. I think enemies to lovers trope is just the only one that's going to work for me at this point, because I've tried other romances and I'm like, meh. But this one is one that almost consistently works for me. I loved the letters. I loved the magic typewriter. Like, as a writer, that was awesome.
Yes.
For me.
Yes.
I thought a lot about The Lovely War by Julie Berry. Have you read this one?
No, I don't think I have.
So Lovely War by Julie Berry is World War I, and it is Greek mythology. So you have your normal Greek gods and goddesses that are like running things behind the scenes of World War I, and you have these people that are on Earth trying to deal with it.
Got it.
And you know, Ares and Aphrodite and Hephaestus are like having this, you know, love triangle situation, and they're fighting about all the things. That one is fantastic on audio. If you need like a World War I Greek mythology mashup, that was a good comp for this one. And I really liked Divine Rivals too. So I can't wait for the next one, because I will be reading.
Me too.
I really liked Iris and Roman together. So
yes, me too. Okay, what else you got in the YA category?
Okay, so this one is also brand new. It's called Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Booley. And she wrote, I don't know if you read The Firekeeper's Daughter. It was like last year or the year before.
No, it's one that I do have. I feel like I have it in my Audible library waiting to be listened to.
Yeah, I think it was a Book of the Month selection. This one was actually an add-on for Book of the Month this month, but I got it as an advanced listening copy, so I did it on audio. This is her second novel. Her first one was fantastic, and it revolved around an Indigenous community, and there was a murder mystery and things that were happening, and that was kind of more of a thriller, I would say, like trying to figure out who did this and all these things. She has a really great way of teaching us about problems that Indigenous communities face without like banging you over the head with it. So I really appreciate that about her. So Warrior Girl Unearthed tells the story of Perry Firekeeper Birch. So she's related to the girl who is the main character of Firekeeper's Daughter. So if you read that one, you'll recognize her name. They're like cousins. She's an Ojibwe teen, and they have to do like some kind of internship for the summer. So that like she has a twin sister who is like the golden child. She's very smart, and she's very, you know, on top of things. And Perry is kind of like, meh, I crashed my Jeep because I was driving too fast, and my aunt is making me make up all this money. So she has to go find a job. So her first internship lands her at this museum with this guy who is a little bit quirky and, kind of cantankerous, and he is all about reclaiming tribal items and ancestral remains from places outside of their community, so that from their traditional lands, you know, bringing them into the tribal lands. And there actually, I learned quite a lot about this law called NAGPRO, which is a federal law that was passed that tribal councils can like ask for ancestral remains and sacred items to be returned to the tribe. And so that's a whole thing that's being done in the arts and antiquities and anthropology side of the world, which I didn't know much about. So that was really interesting to me. So she finds out that this college that's nearby, not on the reservation, and it's not a Native American college, it's just a college, but they have in their anthropology department the remains of several ancestors, Ojibwe ancestors. And so she and this guy are working hard to get them back to be able to they take them through a ceremony to bury them properly and just to like honor their ancestors, because that's a big thing in their culture. So she does that. And so this kind of turns into like a heisty situation, because she has to do things that are not quite legal, because there are a lot of roadblocks in her in her way, including people with lots of money and lots of influence and all of that. So there's that. There's a romance kind of going through. There is also a lot of talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is a really tough part of this book. So I do want to say that there are lots of trigger warnings for like sexual assault, sexual abuse, even murder. And so that part gets a little bit sticky, but it's so good. And I think it's so important that we know about these things. So I really appreciate that she
Yes,
wrote this for our
absolutely.
older teens and us.
Yes.
So
Yes. That sounds fantastic. So again, that's Warrior Girl Unearthed
yes,
by
by
Angeline.
Angeline. Yeah, and her name's Angeline, which I would not have figured
Angeline.
out. But I guess
Yes.
there's a website where you can go hear how people
Oh,
pronounce their names. And so I learned that she was Angeline Bully.
okay. That's so good. That's so good. Okay,
Yeah.
I told you during our last commercial break that I'm changing up the list a little bit because as we were talking, I remembered, I think it was last year that you told me about a YA book that you thought I would
Yes.
really like. I read it. I don't even know if I followed up with you, and I'm almost positive I haven't talked about it on Sort of Awesome because I can almost just barely talk about it without crying.
I know. It's so good.
But I do think it would be a good summer read. It's not a bummer, like it's not a it's will pull at your heartstrings kind of
Mm-hmm.
crying. But I think it'd be a good summer read, and I will tell you why. So the book is called What I Carry, and it's by Jennifer Longo. And this book, bless its heart and bless Jennifer's heart, came out at the end of January of 2020.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a little backlist at this point, but I just feel so bad for authors who like had been like
I
their whole
know.
thing, like you have a book coming out and then it's 2020. I think that because of the timing, this one has been a little under the radar. It's so
Mm-hmm.
underrated. People should be talking about this. I'm so glad you put it on my radar, Katie. So, What I Carry is a young adult book that tells the story of a young woman named Muir. And Muir is named after the naturalist John Muir.
Yes, which I
And
love.
so, yes, and Muir has grown up in foster care and has moved to many, many houses. And there's one thing that she has learned being a child growing up in the foster system is to pack light.
Mm-hmm.
And so every single thing that she has in her belongings is very important. It's very meaningful. And then she has collected some things, taken things with her along the way that are representative of different experiences that she's had with different families through the years. And so by the time we catch up with Muir, it's her senior year and she's been placed in another home. And this home and this community are different from her other
Yes.
experiences. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna
It's,
start crying. It's so good.
it's so
Um,
good.
I won't, just for the sake of time, I won't go into all of the details, but this placement is different. And we get to follow along with Muir as she throughout the story allows the reader to go back and she kind of gives flashbacks along the way of her different experiences. And it helps us to understand her reluctance to
Mm-hmm.
let her guard down and be accepted and to find home
Yes.
in this last placement. And the reason I think that it would be so great for summer is because she's named after John Muir, the naturalist. There's like so much nature stuff in here, which is, I think, why you put this in my hands, right?
Yes, yes. So much walking in the woods and so much noticing all the things. And I loved that part of it for sure.
As someone for whom experiencing nature is such a spiritual thing for me, whether
Mm-hmm.
it is a Oklahoma sunset or literally just walking the dog, but certainly walks through the forest. Not that we have a lot of forest here, but that's a spiritual component for me. And so Jennifer Longo really masterfully weaves together this story so that you can experience a foster child's experience through her eyes and through her experiences, this blending in of nature and how all of that factors in. And then you have all of like these other issues that come in based on the experience of the Pacific Northwest. Like it's just so good. And again, will pull at your heartstrings, but so redemptive and just, oh, my heart. I love it. I almost can't even find the words to talk about it.
It's one of
I'm
those
so,
that one of those that is like a perfect book for me. Like there's the
Yes.
nature, there's the found family, there's the, like you said, the reluctant person who lets their guard down and lets themselves be loved. And it's so good. I think I wept reading this
I
book. I
cry. I
mean,
mean, I'm still
like
crying about it,
tears.
obviously. I would be standing, I can vividly remember standing in my kitchen, just tears pouring down
Hmm.
my face as we hear through Muir her stories. And oh my gosh, it's so good, you guys. So
So
if you do
good.
read it this summer, maybe be aware of your surroundings. You could be at the beach
Like
just like sobbing.
maybe don't read it like listen in the produce section of the grocery store because you will
For
be
sure.
embarrassed.
Don't do it in public. Do not read this book in public, but do read this book.
Yes.
Okay. So those were some YA selections. Let's go to the
Hmm.
other end of the spectrum with some more grown-up, spicier selections for the grown-up readers.
Okay, so my romance picks, these are buzzy. You have seen them everywhere. So I'll just go through, and I don't think they need a ton of intro. So this book is Happy Place by Emily Henry. You've seen it everywhere with the hot pink cover. And in fact, Meg, I remember talking to you about Book Lovers this exact time last year. So
Yes.
Emily Henry is definitely a winner for me. This is a second chance romance. The characters are named Harriet and Wynne, and they have this amazing friend group. There are 6 of them. There are 3 couples. They are like friends that are family. And every year they come to this main cottage to have like a friend pilgrimage almost where they spend the week together. Harriet and Wynne have not told their friends, however, that they are not together. So their friends are still operating under the assumption that they're engaged and together. And so, that, of course, they put them in a room together. It's like one of those like only bed tropes, too. And
Mm-hmm.
they have to go through this week and they just decide we're just going to fake it till we make it. We're going to pretend. And then after we leave, we can tell everybody the truth. Of course, things change with that. But I
Yep.
loved this one. Harriet is having a really hard time as a doctor. She has gone through all of medical school. She just does not love her job. And that's part of something that came between her and Wynne was, I think, just her unhappiness with her situation. And so, and
Yes.
he actually moved back home to live with his parents. I think his dad is ill, I want to
His
say.
dad had passed away
Yes. Okay.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was helping out with that. And so they just have a lot of things between them, and they get to work through all of that under the guise of like, we're still together and our friends don't know. And so that was really
Yes.
fun, but also really tender. I think she does a good job with like real feelings as she's telling
Yes.
you this fun, frothy, romancy story.
Emily Henry, like, she's the darling of the like sort of summer read world. But what I think everybody loves about her books is, yeah, they're sexy, very, very
Mm-hmm.
sexy. But you get this whole cast of characters. It's not just about our main characters usually. And
Mm-hmm.
this one, I think she does. I agree with you. This is my favorite one yet because you get these really developed side characters. You the dialogue is so snappy, so witty. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're fully fleshed out characters, all of them. And this one, I think it might be her sexiest one yet. I listened on
Yeah.
audio, and there'd be times I'd be like, I
Ooh,
gotta make
got a
sure I
little
push pause before I get in the car with my
blushy.
children. Yes, exactly,
Well, and
exactly.
the best part about second chance romances, this is the only other trope pretty much that works for me besides enemies to lovers. But the best part about second chance is that they already know each other's bodies and, how to be
Yes.
with each other. And so it's not,
Mhm.
you don't get that like awkward fumbling part. Like they
Right.
just fall back into it. And there's something
Mhm.
so comforting about that for me. I don't know. I love that bit about it. So.
Yep. This is a good one. I would say if you're looking for a really good and also sexy read for the summer, like get this one, Happy Place by Emily
Yeah.
Henry. So good.
For sure. For sure. She's my gold standard for the romance now, which means that unfortunately other ones don't quite live up to her, but that's
Yes.
okay. I do have a couple more though. I did read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and that one
Mhm.
um, she's usually a winner for me too. I really liked the last one that I read, Part of Your World, and then this one is in that same universe. So Part of Your World was about a doctor. This is also about a doctor who's friends with the main character from the other one. Her name is
Okay.
Brianna Ortiz. She's an ER doctor, so she's very high achieving. She's very motivated in her job. She's very good at it. She is up for promotion to become like the chief of the ER, and because her boss is retiring, but he hires this guy named Jacob Maddox who comes in, and he's kind of awkward, but like in the way that makes him seem like a jerk. So she immediately hates him. All the nurses immediately hate him. They're all like against him because they all want her to be their chief. And and now it seems like they're being pitted against each other. So they
Yes.
end up like one day, I think she's crying in the like supply closet because the other side story of this is that her brother is dying of kidney failure, and he is very
Mm.
young, and he needs a kidney transplant. And so far his blood type is weird, and they haven't been able to find a match.
Okay.
So she's like having a meltdown in the supply closet. He comes in, he kind of like, okay, I don't know. He tries to kind of help her out. They end up writing letters back and forth, which I love that part. That like reminded me of Divine Rivals, the letter writing piece. There's no mystery about who it is. They know that they're writing to each other, but they form this really great friendship. And then this is not a spoiler because I think it's on the back, but he actually gets tested and is a match for her brother. So he agrees.
Oh, wow.
Before he really is even friends with her, he agrees to give this man his kidney. And his mom had a kidney transplant that saved her life. And so he wants to pay it forward. So, they become friends. But then, of course, there's lots more. There's also like a fake dating trope here because the reason he left his hospital is that his ex-girlfriend is engaged to his brother now. And so his family dynamic is a little bit weird. And he's like, I need a fake girlfriend. So she's like, I will be your fake girlfriend. I will be the fakest fake girlfriend of all times, And so she like lays it on thick with his family. And of course, fake feelings turn into real feelings and all of that because it is a romance. And so this one was really cute. I liked the side story with the brother and witnessing all of that like hard stuff that happens when you have someone who's terminally ill and how to help them through that kind of stuff, and even the hope of getting a new kidney and all of that. So that part was great. So I like this one.
So fun.
You could get this one on audio from Book of the Month because it was a pick for me.
All right.
So if you need to use one of those credits,
Now I know. I am building my little Book of the Month wish list over there with the audio. So good.
So that was
yours truly. Yes.
Sorry.
Yours truly, Abby Jimenez. Did you have any other romances?
I had one more, and I think this is a Jamie B. Golden pick. So if you've already heard her talk about this, and this one's called The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon.
I've had this for months, and I need to get into it. So maybe this will be my jumping off point.
So I went into this one thinking this was YA. It is not YA. I just want to make it looks YA and it feels YA at first. It is not YA. This is totally in a fantasy world. So you have Hart. He's a marshal. His job is to like go to these outer lands and find these bodies that there's like some creature that will take the soul of a body if you don't find it soon enough and do something terrible with it. He has to bring the bodies into town and give them to the undertakers. And so Mercy is an undertaker, kind of. Her dad is going through some health things and is not able to run the business as he previously did. So she is pretty much on her own running this undertaking business, which is not really allowed because she's a woman in this society. Undertakers are sons. It's supposed to be, so-and-so and sons are the undertakers.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So right off the bat, Hart and Mercy do not get along with each other. They both have like attitudes about each other. They're very stubborn. And at some point, one of them writes a letter kind of into the ether, like, I need a friend who wants to be my friend. And this magical messenger person takes it, of course, to the other one. And so we get this back and forth, and you get to see both perspectives. It is, I would say, a fantastical retelling of You've Got Mail. I will say that because they are definite enemies. One of them knows who the other one is. The other one does not. And they're writing back and forth. But there's this like also fantastical element of the undertaking in the family business. And there's another business trying to take them over. And so she's having to deal with her siblings and her ailing dad and all of this stuff, all the while kind of like hate loving this person writing to her. And so it's a
Okay.
really fun, I really, really liked it. I know some people are like, oh, you've got mail again, but I really liked it for that. So I thought it was really fun. And it's very spicy. I was like, oh,
Okay.
this is me doing my mascara, like, oh, I'm getting a little sweaty in here. Time to turn that one off. So I did want to say that too, but it's really, really fun. That one's called The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon.
Okay, so fun. This is such a great lineup if that is what you are looking for this summer. Um, do you want to do the ones you're looking forward to? Do you want to just skip straight to my book talk
Go to book
picks? Or
talk and then we can talk about,
okay.
or because those are the ones you're looking forward to, right?
Well, I just
The
kind of
book
want to
talk
put them on
ones.
people's
Okay.
radar, so I don't have like very extensive notes on them or
Oh,
anything.
I don't have extensive notes on mine either.
Okay.
On
All right,
these
maybe
ones.
we can just kind of like
Okay.
yeah, just more bullet point style these last ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, like I said, Katie, I get a lot of book talk material on TikTok. Sometimes I send them your way because I know you're not on the TikTok. So, you know, there's really great recommendations. Book Talk is a wild place. They are still obsessing over The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid,
That
which
is old.
I read that. I read it when it came out in 2017, and
Yeah.
I loved it. And in 2017, there was no TikTok.
Right.
I would have loved to have talked to a lot of people about how much I loved that book at the time. Now I'm like, you guys, like,
Move on.
okay.
Like, we've heard it.
Yes. The other thing they're still all very into is the ACOTAR series, which Rebecca just mentioned, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Lots of talk about that. A lot. On Book Talk, maybe it's just my particular interest. I get a lot of romance and I get a lot of fantasy. Maybe that's because I like romance and I like fantasy. You can find corners of Book Talk where it's poetry, it's horror, it's thrillers, it's memoir. It's a little bit harder to find. I feel like the romance and fantasy or the crossover of romance and fantasy like ACOTAR get a lot more views, but there really is something for everyone on Book Talk. I do want to say some of the big ones that I keep seeing over and over. The first one is a contemporary romance, a new adult romance called Icebreaker. It's by Hannah Grace, a debut novel, and it's pretty spicy. It is a sports college romance, which
hockey?
is normally, yes, hockey and ice skating. So think back to the 90s movie, The Cutting Edge. And you kind of have a similar setup. We have a female main character who is an ice skater who's trying to get on Team USA for ice skating. We have a collegiate hockey team captain. That's our main romance. It is enemies to lovers. This book in reviews, like it's all over Book Talk, reading reviews. This is a book, it's either a love or hate. Either you are super into the characters and love the whole setup, or you are like, what was all the buzz about? So it's going to be one or the other for you. But again, it's called Icebreaker. It's by Hannah Grace.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an author named Anna Huang who writes a lot of contemporary romance. A lot of her books are on Kindle Unlimited. So like I see Anna Huang's books all the time, especially her Twisted series, which is Twisted Love, Twisted Games, Twisted Hate, and Twisted Lies. All on Kindle Unlimited, which we have not talked about that much, Katie, but if you pay for Kindle Unlimited and you're looking for a good series to start, go check, and you like romance and you like spicy, go check out Hannah Huang's books because they're super popular. Now, here's one that is one of those fantasy romance crossovers that I'm seeing not just on Book Talk, but definitely on Book Talk, and that is Fourth Wing.
Oh, yes. I've seen this everywhere.
Everywhere. You guys, this is by Rebecca Yaros. It is the first in a series on Goodreads as we record, Katie. This has over 10,000 ratings at a 4.74.
What?
That's never insane. Happens, right?
Wow.
And as we are recording, it's sold out everywhere. You can't get it at Target. You can't get it at Barnes & Noble.
I'm so sad I didn't pick this up at Costco the other day because I saw it and I looked at it. It was very big. And I was like, maybe later. So now I'm sad.
It's kind of giving Game of Thrones, apparently. I haven't read it. I do want to get it. The book itself is gorgeous. Like
So pretty.
Beautiful, beautiful book. But so the setup is that we've got 20-year-old Violet who just wants to live a quiet life with her books and studying history, but there's a war going on. Why are we talking about war so much, Katie?
I don't know.
Like,
It's a theme. I don't know. I guess people are writing about them a lot right now.
I guess so. I don't even like war books, but here we are. I loved a war book this year already, so maybe I'll love Fourth Wing too. Um, it is a fantasy. So there's a war going on, and Violet is forced to go to this like sort of war training school where you learn how to become a dragon rider. So
Oh.
maybe this is where the sort of like Game of Thrones tie-in comes into, or reference comes
Mm-hmm.
into, because apparently like there's a lot of dragon stuff in this book.
I've seen lots of comparisons to Harry Potter to like an adult Harry
Okay.
Potter-ish situation. So that also got me
Yes.
intrigued.
Because you do have a school, and when Violet is there, she realizes there's like two, like within the school, sort of like Slytherin versus Gryffindor. There's
Mm-hmm.
like rivalries within the school.
Okay.
And so, of course, there's a male main character who's part of the opposing school, and there's romance going on here. I will tell you that on Goodreads, where again we're at 4.74, which is just unheard of.
Insane.
One of the top reviews right now, the review starts with, "If y'all see me on the news tomorrow, it's because I broke into this author's house and tried to steal the manuscript for the
Oh.
sequel."
I love it.
So apparently it ends on a cliffhanger too.
Okay. Good
But
to know.
I'm definitely seeing Fourth Wing talked about everywhere, but I first heard about it over on Book Talk. So
It looks so good. It's definitely on my list for summer too.
yeah. If you want an epic read for the summer,
Right.
maybe go check out Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Okay, you have some that you're looking forward to that you haven't read yet.
Yes. So one that just came out this past week is The One and Only Ruby by Catherine Applegate. I know this is middle grade. A lot of us have loved The One and Only Ivan. It's now been made into a movie on Disney, I want to say. And there was a sequel a couple years ago called The One and Only Bob, it's about the dog. And so The One and Only Ruby is about the elephant that Ivan ended up helping get into like a wildlife sanctuary after they left their little mall that they were in. So I can't wait to read this one. My daughter is angry that I have left it on my my nightstand for too long, because she's like, "I need this book, Mom, hurry up." So
that's so cute.
I'll probably let her read it first, but it's one that I've been looking forward to a long time. Another one, this is totally in the opposite direction. This is one of those literary books that will probably make me feel things, and it's very long. It's like 31 hours on audio. It's a big, thick book, but this is called The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese, I think. And he wrote Cutting for Stone. I don't know if you read that one, like years ago. This is the next book after that one.
Okay.
I can only imagine how much time and research and, just effort he put into this book, because it's a big book. And I've already heard from people that I trust that it is lovely. I do think that there's a lot of death, and it's like a big sweeping literary, like epic family story. And I think the setup, if I'm remembering correctly, is that every generation in this family, somebody drowns. And so they're trying to figure out like why that happens and how to stop it and all that kind of stuff. And so this is going to be a nice big long one that you can kind of sink into. We're going on a 2-week RV trip, and I'm going to take it with me, even though it's humongous. And I'm just going to read a little bit every day. That's my plan for that one. I can't wait for it.
Yes.
And one for fun is called The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by S.A. Chakraborty. This was a book of the month pick, and it's like feminist pirate adventure. Like they're going to find a kidnapped daughter of a king, and she's being paid to do this. And there's like a giant octopus or kraken or something on the cover. So that one looks really fun.
Oh, yes.
I don't know that I've read a pirate book necessarily, but I'm excited about this one. And then the last one that I actually just started this morning is called The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan. This is the 17th book in the Percy Jackson world. So I am a teacher, and so have kept up with all of the Percy Jackson books because I love them. And so he took one of the side characters from Percy Jackson, and his name is Nico D'Angelo. He's a son of Hades. He's gay, and we find that out kind of toward the end of the series. And he's actually like his boyfriend is named Will Solace, and he's the son of Apollo. So there could not be different. We've got son of the underworld, son of the, sun.
Yes.
And so they're together. But in this one, which I think is on the more YA side instead of middle grade, they together go on a quest to Tartarus to rescue a beloved character. If you have read the rest of it, I'm sure that teenagers are like, oh my gosh, give me this book right now if they have read the rest of them. But they go back into Tartarus to rescue somebody, and that's their quest. So I want to just say this. Rick Riordan does a fantastic job with representation and championing authors who are not, your straight white Christian dudes, right? So he actually partnered up with a queer writer to write this book. So they co-authored
Oh, that's
it.
so good.
Yeah, so we can, have a really authentic experience from Nico's perspective. So I love that.
Love it.
I'm really excited. I already listened to 10% this morning, and I'm super into it. So I'm really excited about that.
Yay. So good. Oh my gosh, Katie, every single time we talk about books, I'm just so invigorated and so much good stuff. Okay. First of all, thank you for preparing all of this, for getting our awesome summer reading off to a great start. And I mentioned at the top of the show, but tell us again, best places to find you on social media, where we can find your books, just all of the things.
Instagram is my favorite place, at Katie Proctor Writes and Reads. I'm also at Facebook. It's Katie Proctor Author, I think, is my page. Everything pretty much from Instagram goes over there, but I love to talk about books on Facebook too. And my books you can find wherever you can order books. So Color Coded just came out in March, and then My Story Dear and Hand in Hand are also out there for the world.
So great, you guys. We are so fortunate to have Katie, author, reader, teacher, all of the things, to come and be our books and reading specialist. You can find me on social media at Sorta Awesome Meg. You can find Sorta Awesome on whatever platform you are on, just by searching Sorta Awesome. We would love to have you there. Again, you guys go over and join us in the Hangout, because we talk about books plenty over there as well. So we would love to have you over there. Awesome. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see y'all next time.